So here I am picking up where I left off in the file initialize.php. I've just added this line over here, which basically registers load main class, which is a function that I defined in functions.php. It registers it as an autoloader for my project. So now I know or have a better idea of how this autoloader works. Okay, here is the file I'm copying from. And next, I'm supposed to copy this line here, these two lines. But I've decided not to at this point because I'm not going to be installing Composer at this point. When I decide to install it, then I'll figure out how it works these days, and then I'll implement it in my project. Now, because the next step involves accessing the database through PHP, I want to come to a decision of whether I should use my existing code from the No framework, which I got from Linda's Beyond the Basics course for PHP, or whether I should get material from a more recent PHP MySQL lynda.com video series. I've decided to write my own code for accessing the database using MySQL which is MySQL improved interface for PHP. And I want to first go over this course on lynda.com. It's called Accessing Databases with Object-Oriented PHP. This course covers PDO and MySQL, but I'm not going to do the PDO because the MySQL, it says that they will talk about, doing transactions and stuff like that. So I'm going to put off adding the PHP code from No framework. I'm not going to put it into initialize.php. So now I added the next thing, which is these two lines, which instantiate a new session and retrieve or actually call the function message on the session object and store the value in $message. So the next thing I need to do is to copy the includes file that has the session class. Okay, here is session.php. I copied it to underdog zone, and this is what the file looks like. Unfortunately, this is not going to be as simple as it could have been because session.php needs a user class. So what I'm going to do is I'm in includes here. Where is user? I'm going to take user from No framework and I'm going to put it here in underdog zone. But I'm not going to inspect it right now, and I may forget to inspect it anytime in the near future, like after I'm done inspecting session.php. A session object is one of the first objects to be instantiated every time a script is run. This session object maintains the following private attributes: logged in, which defaults to false, user ID, message, and visible videos page number. Now, these are things which document the state of the application. So, for example, visible videos page, that would be so that when the user opens up the pages system that he's looking at, he or she will end up at the last page he looked at rather than have to start all over again. User ID is the number that comes from the column in the user table. It's basically the primary key. And then message, that'll be used to accumulate messages that occur during the runtime of the current script. And most likely this message will be stored in the session so that the next script will have access to this message. The first class method of the session class is a function called message. This function serves two purposes depending on whether it has an argument or whether the argument does not exist. it will either store a message in the session or it will return the message attribute from the session object. The user ID method returns the session object's user ID if it exists, or it returns false. Visible videos page number. This is a method that has a lot to do with the videos feature of the website or the app, and I'm not sure I'll have that feature, so I'm just going to remove this. This is the constructor for the session class, and as you may recall, the session class object is instantiated as soon as the script starts. So what this constructor will do is it will absorb all the information from the session and put it into the session object. I should really have this constructor at the top of this file, and that's what I'm going to do off camera. Method is logged in simply finds out from the session object whether or not the user is classified as being logged in. However, the method called login does something different. This method takes an argument which is supposed to be a user object. Basically, what login method does is if the user object is supplied to it as an argument, then what it does is it takes the ID from that user object and assigns it to the session and the session object, and sets the session object's logged in attribute to true. If there was no user object passed to login, it simply doesn't do anything. Logout does the opposite. It unsets the session user ID and it unsets the session object's user ID, and it sets the session object's logged in attribute to false. And these two private methods are very obvious. This one is get login status from the session, and that's from the session. And then function get message from the session also. And here there's one that gets the page number from the session. Okay, but it says visible videos page number. I'm going to remove that function, although I know every website or every app is going to definitely have some kind of pagination. So, that's why I would have thought of keeping it in, but it's not going to be about videos, okay? Anyways, so I'm done with session.php. I didn't forget about user.php. That'll be in the next video. So that's it for this video.